I am back with the milk. Superhero movies. A lot of people like them, a lot of people don't. But me personally, I love them. I'm a big fan. Along with cartoons and anime, superhero movies were a huge part of my childhood. Like back in the day, most Indian movies were just goober romances, generic dramas, and unfunny comedies. And sometimes they mix all of that and add ridiculous action sequences. And dear God, I never liked them. To put it nicely, I'm not the biggest fan of Indian movies. If you like them, that's cool, all the more power to you, but personally, I'm not into that. But you put on some movies now, or star movies or something like that on TV, you see stuff like this. Monkey sees superpowers, neuron activation. For any kid, these are clearly more appealing, right? So yeah, I was kinda obsessed with them. And you go back to Indian movies, you see shit like this. Like, what is this Gunner bit? Who are watching this? Who is this for? I just don't get it. So yeah, I spent most of my childhood just watching Hollywood movies, especially superhero movies. And as I grew up, I became somewhat of a comic book nerd. I basically watched every single superhero movie ever made up until like 2020. I watched almost every single animated show. I read a lot of comics or graphic novels if we're talking fancy. So yeah, this stuff is near and dear to me, alright? And recently, I realized that there were several attempts at making Indian superhero movies. Today, we're gonna take a look at them and see if they're any good. This video is gonna be pretty long, so without wasting any time, let's just jump into it. Starting this list with the Krrish movies. This is like the first ever attempt at making an Indian superhero movie. There are two Krrish movies, but there's also this movie called Koi Mil Gaya. I don't know how to explain it, but this is the movie that started this series or this cinematic universe, if you will. It's not a superhero movie, it's a sci-fi movie that's heavily inspired by E.T. And all the stuff that happens in this movie plays a huge role in the Krrish movies. I wanted to do my homework before I watched Krrish, so I watched Koi Mil Gaya, and surprisingly, I actually kinda liked it. It was pretty good. I mean, don't get me wrong, it has a lot of flaws. Stupid shit happens all the time and characters make dumb decisions. And oh my god, the songs, the dance numbers, they were unbearable. And there were so many of them too. But since I watched it online, I just skipped all of them. But I cannot imagine watching something like this in a theater, man. Like being forced to watch all of that, oh, that's like torture. But even with all the flaws, I still kinda enjoyed it. It has a certain charm to it. It has a fun premise and some interesting ideas here and there, and the acting was solid, especially Hrithik Roshan's acting in this role is crazy good. Like, it's my favorite thing in this movie. And also, I really like the alien in this movie. I mean, just look at this guy. He looks chill. I don't know what kind of effects or technique they used for the alien, but they did a great job. The way it looks, the way it moves, it actually feels like an alien. Like this kind of stuff in a 2003 Bollywood movie, I was blown away. But yeah, overall, I think it's a pretty good movie. But let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's talk about the first Krrish movie. This movie came out in 2006 and it's a sequel to Koi Mil Gaya. It continues the story from that movie but takes everything to a completely different direction. The story follows the son of the guy from the first movie, who is also played by Hrithik Roshan again, cause Bollywood. This movie starts off pretty good, like the beginning was pretty interesting. But 18 minutes in, this movie introduces Priyanka Chopra's character and it turns into your typical Bollywood romance, and that just goes on forever.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Her character in this movie is obnoxious, and 80% of the first half is just the romance. This is a 3-hour long movie, by the way, so it feels like an eternity. But occasionally, you get some moments with the grandma here and there. Those parts were kinda interesting, but other than that, it was pretty boring. But the second half gets a lot better. There's still a bit of romance, but not as much as the first half. And most importantly, this is where all the Krrish stuff happens. The story gets a lot better, and the movie becomes interesting. The action and visuals were kinda bad, to be honest, but this is a 2006 Bollywood movie. You gotta cut it some slack. But some of the stuff that happens in this movie just doesn't make any sense. Like, bro is not Spider-Man. How is he doing all of that? And he also turns into the Flash and runs faster than a bullet towards the end of this movie. And there are a lot of goofy stuff like that. But the strongest thing in this movie by far is this man's acting. He nailed it. His performance as the main character Krishna is pretty good, but his performance as his father,
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything.
it also has a good soundtrack. And no, I'm not talking about the Bollywood songs. I'm talking about the score. The main theme goes insanely hard. But yeah, overall, I think it's a decent movie if you can get through the first half. So I'll give this one a 6 out of 10. It's not that bad, but not that good either. Moving on to Krrish 3. You might be asking, oh, where's Krrish 2? Oh, well, someone teach this man how to count. After the first Krrish movie, you directly get 3. There is no 2. I guess this man hits number 2 like Mr. hits number 4 or something. Putting that aside, how's the movie, you may ask? Well, I'll rip the band-aid off. This movie is kinda stinky. It trips off so many things that if I have to point out everything, this section alone gonna be an hour long. Even the villain, he's literally just Magneto sitting in Professor X's chair. And guess what? He has a group of mutants as his goons. You couldn't have made it more obvious. I found this one clip while I was working.
इंटरनेशनल लेवल का परफॉर्मेंस कह रहा है कि जो विवेक ओबरॉय ने काल परफॉर्म किया है वो हीथ लेजर का जोकर जो बैटमैन में परफॉर्म किया था वैसे है तो ये सारी जो कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स मिल रही हैं इसे बहुत खुशी हो रही है वाकई
Poor guy. Who told him that? Even the action sequences and story beats are all ripped straight from various Hollywood superhero movies. Like, this is plagiarism at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. And even if you ignore all the plagiarism, this movie still sucks. The visual effects look ass, even the costumes and makeup look shit. Just look at these. This guy looks like he's been stung by bees on the face. And it has a lot of annoying musical dance numbers, and all of them happen at like least expected times. For example, there's a scene where the guy finds out his wife is pregnant and he immediately jumps on the stage and starts dancing with his pregnant wife for 5 minutes straight. Like, what? And there are multiple songs like that throughout the movie. But the only good thing in this movie is, once again, this man's acting. He didn't have the best script to work with, but he did a good job with what he had, in my opinion. And also, I think there are some original ideas in this movie, but they just failed at executing them. So yeah, this one gets a 4.5 out of 10. It's not even mid, it's just bad. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a Krrish 4 coming out next year. There's an IMDb page and it even has the plot there. And it looks like there's time travel involved this time. Oh boy, I cannot wait to see what they're cooking with this one. Oh man, I'm about to ruin your childhood. So this is a 2011 movie that stars everyone's favorite actor SRK, Stand Removal King, and man, this movie is asinine. Like, when I was watching it, I just wanted it to be over fast. No, hold up before you unsubscribe. If you don't believe me, just go watch it yourself again. I think a lot of people like this movie because they watched it when they were kids and thought this was cool because of the VFX and all of that. But if you watch this now as an adult, you'll realize how bad it actually is. Now, let me get the good thing out of the way first. The visual effects, the CGI and stuff, for the most part, they look pretty decent. Like, especially for a 2011 Bollywood movie, it's pretty good. Although it's a little inconsistent, like sometimes it looks good, and sometimes it just looks like a PS3 game cutscene. But for the most part, it does look pretty decent. That's it. That's the only good thing I have to say. Because everything else in this movie is complete dog shit. Like, the story and plot make Krrish 3 look like a masterpiece. In a nutshell, the basic plot is this. This kid beats a villain in a video game, and the villain gets real pissed that he comes to real life using some bullshit technology to kill the kid. So the kid brings the protagonist of that game to real life to fight the villain. That's it. That's the plot. Like, it's just stupid. And this movie revolves around a video game, right? And the game itself is so cringe. Like, it's the kind of shit a 6-year-old would come up with. And there's no such thing as logic in this movie. SRK's character dies in this movie, and we see him getting buried in a coffin, and exactly 20 seconds later, you see his family holding his ashes. Like, how does that work? It actually blows my mind. And that's just one example, by the way. And the characters in this movie are a bunch of morons. Lady, your husband died just the other day. What are you smiling about? And the acting is nothing special, it's alright, but oh boy, the dialogue in this movie makes me want to off myself.
बहुत मेहनत कर रहेगा
Kandum.
No. Your Tamil is very naughty. It's not condom. It's kunjam.
Swagat, let's play.
Zip it, crack face. Gaming champion. Zip it, crack face. Gaming champion.
And of course, we got the dance numbers, the musicals, classic stuff. They do nothing but waste your time, man. Like, there's a song in this movie with lyrics that go, "It's criminal, way that booty going bop, bop, bop. It's criminal, way that body won't stop, stop, stop." Like, damn. That's deep. Peak lyricism right there. But yeah, overall, this is an absolute abomination of a movie with some good looking visuals here and there. It's a 4 out of 10 on a good day. But I'm sorry all the Ra.one fans out there, I'm having a bad day, so 3 out of 10. Oh boy, where do I even begin? I don't know how I'm gonna review this. This movie is absolute fucking garbage. I genuinely do not have a single positive thing to say about this movie. The story is stupid, the characters are somehow worse than characters from Ra.one. I mean, that's a feat right there. The acting is ass, and the VFX are stinky. Superman 1978 looks better than this. And they got an Australian guy to play the villain in this movie, and he looks goofy as hell. Like, he looks straight out of one of those kid shows. For the most part, this movie is your typical goober Bollywood comedy. The humor basically consists of fart jokes, getting hit in the nuts equals funny, that kind of humor. If you're under 8, you're gonna have a blast, buddy. And as usual, we got the dance numbers, the musicals, all the classic stuff. They're annoying as hell. There's a song in this movie called Beat Pe Booty. Like, what's up with Bollywood and booties, man? T-series, what the fuck? In a normal musical, these spots are like a creative way of expressing the characters' emotions and feelings, right? They kind of tell you something about the characters. So what does Beat Pe Booty tell me about this character, huh? Like, I don't get it. It's like they took everything I hate about Bollywood movies and made it into a superhero movie. This is definitely one of the worst, if not the worst movie I have ever seen. And I've seen a lot of shit. So yeah, negative 10 out of 10. Absolute garbage. Would rather put a bullet to my head than watch this again. Man, this movie rocks. I went into it expecting another bad Indian superhero movie, and I couldn't have been more wrong. This is not only a good Indian superhero movie, but a good superhero movie in general. Hats off to the director, man. This is like one of the best Indian movies I've ever seen. Unlike all the previous movies in this list, this movie is much more grounded and realistic. This guy doesn't have any superpowers or anything. He's just a normal guy. He's not just an ordinary guy dressing up as a vigilante to fight corruption. Think of dark and gritty stories like Daredevil, The Punisher, and Batman. It's kinda like that. The plot might seem basic, but the story is actually pretty good. And the characters in this movie feel like real people. The dialogue here is great. Like, some of these scenes hit hard. And the acting is pretty good as well, especially the actor who played this character. He did a great job. This is something I didn't mention in the previous movies, but the cinematography in this movie is really nice. I mean, it's not the Batman or anything, but it looks really good at times. And thank goodness, there are no goofy ass musicals and dance numbers in this movie. Okay, there's one dance number, but they kinda incorporate that into the story, and it doesn't even last that long. It is kinda annoying, but just this much. There are multiple songs in this movie, but they just play that in the background. They don't interrupt the pacing or anything. You know what I mean? I appreciate the hell out of that. I think more Indian movies should do this. Okay, I know I'm glazing this movie a lot, but it's not perfect by any means. It does have some flaws. I have some minor nitpicks in the story, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but the pacing of the second half of this movie feels kinda off. It's not bad, but I think it could have been better. And the third act of this movie gets a little messy in my opinion, and I didn't like the fight sequences all that much. They're serviceable, but could have been a lot better. That's about it. Those are the things that I didn't like that much. But despite all of that, I still loved it. I think this is a great movie. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. It's easily an 8 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's damn good. So after I watched it, I wanted to know what other people think of this movie. So I went to Google and I found out that Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 50%. 50%. What are these guys smoking over there? How is that a 50%? And I learned that this movie was a box office failure. It only made back 4.3 crores with a budget of 21. Man, That just makes me sad. It was such a good movie. Absolute fucking donkey shit like Pushpa 2 makes gazillion in a single day. Meanwhile, good movies like this can't even make their budget back throughout their theatrical release. I guess that's India for you. The main reason for this are the audience here, man. It's just like what Satyajit Ray said in that one interview.
We have a fairly backward audience here, I must say, in spite of the film society movement and all that. If you consider the large audience, it's a backward audience, unsophisticated audience, exposed to the commercial Hindi cinema more than anything else.
And this is still the case. People are still the same. Nothing changed. So this one's a 2021 South Indian movie, a Malayalam one to be specific, and I heard a lot of great things about this one. So I had some expectations going into it. So yeah, I finally watched it and I think it's a decent movie, but definitely not as good as people made it out to be. It's fun, it's entertaining, but best superhero film made in India? Yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. I think that title goes to Bhavesh Joshi. But if we're talking about like superhero movies with superpowers involved, then yeah, this might be the best. This movie had a budget of 18 crores, that's less than what Bhavesh Joshi had, and they managed to do some pretty decent VFX for this one, even with that small budget. Like, that's super impressive. This movie is a weird combination of a South Indian comedy drama set in a village and a superhero movie. Like, that's an interesting combination and it kind of works. The acting in this movie is solid. The one that stands out is the villain. I really like that guy's slow descent into madness. And this movie is a comedy half of the time, and the humor is okay. It didn't make me laugh, but at least it's not cringe, so I appreciate that. But the greatest thing about this movie is that there are zero dance numbers and musicals in it, like not even a single one. God, I fucking love that. That's a huge Kojima thumbs up from me. And as I mentioned, the VFX and stuff are really impressive, especially considering the budget. They did a great job, and yeah, those are the things that I like. But let's get to the things that I didn't like. I think the movie could have been trimmed down a little bit. It's longer than it needs to be. The pacing could have been better. And I have a lot of nitpicks in the story. I can't really go over all of them, but overall, the story is just alright. I don't think it's anything great. And this movie is way too predictable. You can always guess what's gonna happen next. And all the setup and everything takes way too long, and the climax we get for that is underwhelming. It leaves a lot to be desired. People are calling this movie a masterpiece, best superhero film made in India, and some people are calling it one of the best superhero movie ever made in general. I don't think it's that good. I'll give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. It's a solid movie, but not as great as people are making it out to be. I can see it being a 7 out of 10, but I don't think it can go higher than that. Well, those are all the movies that I watched. I know there are a lot of other movies as well, but I can't go over every single one of them in one video, so I just picked the most notable ones. This has been a fun experience, even though some of these movies made me lose my brain cells a little bit. The Krrish movies are flawed, but they're kind of growing on me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually looking forward to Krrish 4. I'm basically a Krrish fan now. Ra.one is just bad, let's just say it didn't age that well. And Flying Jatt is just unbearable. Radioactive levels of cringe. I wish I could erase that movie from my memory, but sadly I can't do that. So now I'm scarred for life. But I really like Bhavesh Joshi. It is so good that it changed my perception of Indian movies. It made me realize that there are good Indian movies out there, but they're just buried under slop like this. And finally, Minnal Murali, it's good but not that good. If I made a tier list of these movies, it would look something like this. And yeah, that's it for the video. I hope you guys liked it. I had a lot of fun making this one. And as I promised, it didn't take a month, it only took 3 months. I mean, what can I say? I'm a man of my word. But in all seriousness though, life didn't cooperate that much the past few months. I was supposed to upload this video in December, but a lot of stuff happened and I couldn't do it. I have a lot more free time from now on, so I'll upload more frequently. I'll upload at least one video every single month, that's a guarantee. And I'll see if I can do more. But thanks for being patient, thanks for coming to my app session again, and as usual, all of these are just my opinions, so feel free to disagree and tell your opinions in the comments. And that's it for today. I'll see you guys in another one.